In the story's inception, a man delivers a foreboding message to our female lead, Syria, proclaiming she has a mere half a year left. Syria, stoically acknowledging the limited time, reflects on her life. She contemplates her marriage to Cardi, the feared nightmare on the battlefield, and the lack of regret despite the impending deadline. Amidst the uncertainty, her sole desire remains to witness Cardi once more. Syria's childhood is haunted by the disdainful gaze of her father, the Duke of Littenheim. His words cut deep, branding her as a shameful blemish, a product of a maid's blood. The Duke's cruelty reaches its peak as he wishes for her death, echoing the resentment harbored within him. Amidst this hostile environment, Syria recalls the echoing taunts of the maids who mockingly remind her of the harsh reality she faces. The maids, unrelenting, challenge Syria to overcome her privileged background and work diligently for even a meager sustenance, scoffing at any notion of entitlement. In the sorrowful recounting, Syria, a forsaken illegitimate child in the Duke's residence, faced the harsh trials of adapting to survive. Unexpectedly, her salvation came in the form of her older half-brother Yernan. Taking charge, Yernan declared Syria's acknowledgement as a true member of the Duke's family, dispelling the doubts of the skeptical maids. In a pivotal moment after the Duke's sudden demise in a carriage accident when Syria was just 6 years old, Yernan, as the new head, solidified her place in the family by formally recognizing her as his younger sister. As whispers circulate among the maids about Syria's legitimacy, she grapples with the looming threat of abandonment, haunted by her father's demeaning words. The internal turmoil intensifies as she contemplates seeking Yernan's assistance to avoid a fate similar to her mother's. Meanwhile, the community discusses her unexpected acknowledgement by Duke Littenheim, questioning the feasibility of a political marriage due to her lowly origins. Amidst these discussions, an idea crystallizes in Syria's mind. A political marriage becomes her perceived salvation, the only avenue to secure her place and evade the shadows of abandonment that linger over her. Syria introduces herself to the male lead, Cardi Esperand, noting the imperial and princely nature of his name as the Grand Duke of Adalida. Despite her initial concerns, Cardi welcomes her with politeness. Syria feels a sense of relief, perceiving no apparent displeasure in Cardi regarding the marriage proposal from a maid's daughter. As they sit down for tea, Syria observes Cardi, appreciating his regal presence while sensing a tinge of suspicion in his gaze directed towards her. In her thoughts, she likens him to a beautiful work of art, captivated by his demeanor. Cardi, with a somber tone, questions Syria about her willingness to be the wife from a perceived monster, clarifying that he is the result of being raised by the formidable Esperand. Cardi is revealed to possess the nightmare of the battlefield, a formidable and rarely manifesting power originating from the Reyes bloodline of his mother. While this power holds the potential to sway the course of wars, it comes at a significant cost. It consumes the life of its owner. The ominous prediction looms over Cardi, with widespread belief that he will not live past the age of 30, destined for a premature and untimely death. Confidently, Syria acknowledges her awareness of Cardi's formidable power. Cardi, in response, questions the rationale behind her marriage proposal, urging her to reconsider. Despite Cardi's self-deprecating sentiments, Syria, feeling an unexpected connection, assures him that she doesn't need to reconsider. In her thoughts, Syria grapples with guilt, recognizing Cardi's importance to the empire. She decides to bear the burden of his power as the Duke's daughter, offering the right to iron mines in return. Expressing a shared sense of undeserving, she decides to deceive Cardi in the end. The concept of a partner is introduced, a figure who shares the burden of Cardi's potent raised power. Every time Cardi utilizes this strength, the partner's life diminishes. Despite the sacrifice, this arrangement serves to extend Cardi's lifespan. Syria recalls a conversation with the Duke where he emphasized the secrecy of the partnership between her and Cardi. The Duke instructs her to guard this secret carefully, ensuring neither Cardi nor the Duke discovers the truth. In her thoughts, Syria accepts this responsibility, understanding that the Duke's reward for maintaining this secrecy is the acquisition of mining rights. In Cardi's contemplation, he reflects on the losses he has endured, with his mother's suicide and the imperial family exploiting him for his uncontrollable power. Expressing concern, he warns Syria that she will undoubtedly regret becoming his wife. However, Syria, undeterred and accustomed to regrets, responds with a content smile, seemingly embracing the challenges that lie ahead in her decision to be Cardi's partner. Syria reflects on the intricacies of her marriage, explaining that the wedding ceremony as a Grand Duke was relatively modest due to the combination of prince and duke titles. Considering her status as a half-blood daughter of a duke, it seemed fitting for her to marry Cardi, labeled as a monster. Despite initial concerns, their married life unfolds peacefully. They share meals, stroll through the garden, and spend each day together, gradually becoming accustomed to each other's company and warmth, even though the concept of love remained unfamiliar to both. On their first wedding anniversary, Cardi surprises Syria with a gift, and she's taken aback that a year has already passed. Despite her initial struggles with social interactions, they share a sweet moment. Cardi presents her with daffodils, a flower she mentioned liking before. Syria is delighted and thinks of Cardi as a sweet man, appreciating his thoughtful gesture. Blushing, she reflects on his ability to remember something she said in passing. Embarrassed, Syria expresses concern for not having prepared a gift for Cardi's first anniversary surprise. However, Cardi reassures her, expressing a different wish. Blushing, he asks if he can hold her hand instead. In response, Syria, overwhelmed with emotions, thinks about Cardi and realizes that she's in love with him. The serene days between Syria and Cardi are abruptly disrupted when a maid suggests informing the Grand Duke about Syria's condition. However, Syria, hesitant and concerned for Cardi risking his life on the battlefield, decides against disclosing her situation, not wanting to burden him with her troubles. Despite the Emperor's attempts to control his powerful and wise son, Cardi's invaluable power led him to continuous battles. The Grand Duke faced formidable foes alone, earning acclaim. However, as Cardi's reputation soared, so did the Emperor's resentment. Unbeknownst to Cardi, his loyalty to imperial orders persisted because Syria became his weakness. She is aware that Cardi must never learn about her condition, and despite the challenges, he remains at the front lines for the sake of their marriage. In her heart, Syria yearns to see him again. In a melancholic state, Syria reminisces about Cardi when suddenly he appears, calling out her name. Surprised and startled, Syria questions why he is there. In a fit of anger, Cardi pulls her closer, expressing frustration and demanding to know why she kept something from him, revealing his discontent at the hidden truth. In a fit of anger, Cardi confronts Syria, expressing his long-standing curiosity about his prolonged survival. He belatedly discovers the existence of a partner responsible for his extended lifespan. Syria, feeling guilty, is taken aback as Cardi questions why she made such a sacrifice, choosing to use her life to sustain his own. Cardi struggles with the idea of Syria risking her life as his partner, unable to comprehend why she would choose to save a perceived monster like him. He reveals that he never realized the extent of her sacrifice and instead believed he was protecting her. Kneeling before Syria, Cardi expresses deep sorrow about the titles and names associated with him, realizing they consume her life. Syria, moved, calls his name and urges him to stop hurting himself. Tearfully, Cardi questions the importance of his own well-being. In response, Syria, with a reassuring smile, emphasizes the significance of Cardi's well-being, not wanting to witness him in pain. She embraces him, confessing her love and insisting that she sees him beyond the monstrous titles. Despite Cardi's emotional turmoil, Syria comforts him by highlighting the happiness they share together. Cardi, moved by her words, acknowledges the cruelty of their situation but declares that he cannot leave her side. In this difficult situation, Cardi's compassionate nature prevails and he refrains from reprimanding Syria despite the gravity of the circumstances. Syria, overwhelmed by the sweetness of his character, contemplates the depth of her love for him. She grapples with the challenge of fully expressing these profound emotions, drawing a poignant comparison to a broken glass that cannot be filled with water. Meanwhile, the ongoing sacrifice she makes for Cardi continues to diminish her life force. In a tender moment, Cardi expresses concern for Syria's comfort. Syria, considering Cardi's well-being, suggests he go and rest, but he insists that he's fine. Playfully, she points out how he claims to be fine more often than her nowadays. Smiling, she invites Cardi to join her in bed, admitting that it helps her sleep better. With a warm smile, she emphasizes that it's been too long since they've slept together and encourages him to join her. Cardi joins Syria in bed, comforting her as they lie side by side. Syria expresses her contentment with the moment, enjoying the closeness. However, Cardi, still concerned about Syria's well-being, thinks about how light she feels. In a heartfelt conversation, Syria assures Cardi that she has never regretted being his partner and asks him not to feel sorry. Cardi, moved by her words, responds with her name. Smiling, Syria acknowledges her happiness in being with him and points out that, had she not become his partner, he might have lost his life already. Syria candidly shares with Cardi that there's something positive about her approaching death, the honesty she can now express with him. Cardi, saddened by this revelation, holds her closely, urging her not to speak of such things and expressing his unreadiness to let her go. As both of them shed tears, Cardi confesses his fear of keeping Syria by his side, unsure of how to make someone he loves happy. Witnessing Cardi's tears, Syria joins him in crying. However, she reassures him, telling Cardi that the happiest time in her 30 years of life has been spent with him. She encourages him to smile, expressing her desire to see him happy during the remaining time she has. Syria declares her love for Cardi, and they embrace each other. In a tender moment, they hold each other close, and Syria expresses gratitude to Cardi for being with her throughout this time. The next morning, Syria's death leaves Cardi devastated, holding her close and grieving. In the midst of this sorrow, Syria expresses a desire to see Cardi once more and to meet him again. However, Syria suddenly wakes up to a scolding from a maid, who points out that she's been sleeping in late and would have been doing menial tasks months ago. Confused, Syria realizes that she is back in the Littenheim duchy before her marriage to Cardi and suspects that a maid intentionally made a mistake. Syria recalls a past event where maids intentionally broke a glass butterfly, a superstition believed to bring bad luck to a bride before marriage. The maids apologize for the mistake, and this time Syria takes extra care. Realizing her surroundings and the absence of the pain she felt before, Syria begins to suspect that she has returned to the time before marrying Cardi, back to when she was alone. She contemplates the possibility of returning to the past and fears that all the days she shared with Cardi, including love, trust, and memories, might have disappeared. Syria decides that if she has indeed returned to the past, her priority is clear: to meet Cardi once again. A maid informs Syria that the Duke is looking for her, prompting her to reflect on the change in her situation. She realizes that she has the freedom to speak up, contrasting with her past self who couldn't express herself. In a flashback, Syria remembers how she would hesitantly interact with maids in her past life, displaying a lack of confidence. Cardi observes that encourages Syria to value herself more. Syria, feeling downcast, apologizes to Cardi for any impact her actions might have on his reputation. However, Cardi reassures her, expressing that she shouldn't apologize for such matters. He shares that seeing someone he cares about degrading herself hurts him. Surprised, Syria asks if Cardi considers her precious, and blushing, he confirms it, stating that as his wife, she is precious to him more than anything. In the midst of a mocking encounter with a maid, Syria reflects on Cardi's words about her being precious. Determined to uphold her self-worth, Syria, with newfound confidence, decides she won't degrade herself any further. Faced with the maid's disapproval, Syria boldly questions the reprimand, emphasizing her desire to protect Cardi's feelings. Growing frustrated, Syria challenges the maid to address her by the appropriate title, asserting her status as the sole lady of the powerful Duke Littenheim. The maid, flustered and fearful, corrects herself, addressing Syria as lady instead of miss. With a dismissive tone, Syria instructs the maid to leave, leaving her in a state of panic, pleading for forgiveness. As Syria grapples with the overwhelming task of organizing memories with Cardi, she is also confronted by the challenges posed by rude maids. Amidst the chaos, she reflects on the details of her return to the past, noting the vivid features of her younger self: bright gold hair, rose-colored cheeks, and a body brimming with youth. Realizing she has the chance to alter the future with Cardi, Syria contemplates the peculiar timing of her health declines, set to begin a year after her marriage. Her thoughts turn to what makes the upcoming year interesting: the prospect of executing the great revenge of Reyes. In the intricate web of her altered timeline, Syria grapples with the complexities surrounding Cardi's heritage and the conflicting emotions tied to his mother, Empress Veronica, a native Reyes who tragically took her own life. Aware that she now has an additional 10 years since returning to the past, Syria is determined to make the most of this time, especially with Cardi. Opening her wardrobe, Syria criticizes her attire, acknowledging the need for a more refined appearance before meeting Cardi. However, she redirects her immediate focus to a crucial task: gaining the support of her half-brother, Duke Littenheim Yernan. Recognizing the significance of Yernan's backing in her endeavors, Syria proceeds to meet him, introducing herself and addressing the summons. Yernan, with a mix of concern and disapproval, questions Syria about her poorly chosen attire. Seizing the opportunity, Syria feigns a falsely saddened expression and replies, "It's because..." Internally, she strategizes, recognizing this as the first time Yernan has called upon her in both her current and past lives, acknowledging the significance of his address. However, instead of pointing out his inattentiveness, Syria decides to elicit sympathy from him, opting for a more strategic approach. Syria, addressing Yernan, begins by revealing the challenging circumstances tied to her mother's role as a maid in the Littenheim family. Yernan, inquisitive, questions the connection between that fact and her shabby attire. Syria, crafting her narrative, explains that due to her mother's background, the servants disrespect her, merely acknowledging her as a member of the ducal family in appearance. She shares her perception, believing that Yernan's lack of inquiry isn't due to neglect but stems from his vision of her independently growing into a lady of Littenheim. Upon hearing Syria's words, Yernan reflects on the past 5 years since their father's sudden passing, acknowledging the multitude of responsibilities that diverted his attention from Syria. Despite Syria starting to address her low birth as the daughter of a maid, Yernan intervenes, asserting that she should handle the servant's lack of respect for a lady independently. He emphasizes her status as a lady of Littenheim, urging her not to endure such disrespect. Observing Yernan's unexpected strong reaction, Syria contemplates his intense response. Despite her silent reflection, she maintains a smiling demeanor toward Yernan. Shifting to a different subject, Yearnin questions whether she plans to attend the debutante ball and if she has chosen a partner. Syria responds affirmatively, expressing her intent to debut in the spring as suggested by Yearnin. Surprised by Yearnin's recollection of such details, Syria contemplates his attentiveness and, in response to his question about her partner, prepares to share her decision. Syria contemplates the desire to have Cardi as her partner for the debutante ball. However, she hesitates, realizing that at this point in time she hasn't even met Cardi. Imagining the scenario, she envisions herself approaching Cardi with a proposal. In her imagination, she passionately asks Cardi to be her partner, only to be met with confusion as Cardi questions her identity. Acknowledging the absurdity of her daydream, Syria realizes that such a bold approach might lead Cardi to perceive her as a peculiar and unfamiliar woman. Syria, feeling disheartened, shares with Yearnin that she hasn't yet decided on a partner for the debutante ball. Yearnin questions her decision, assuming that there must be several requests from potential partners. Syria admits that indeed there were numerous requests, but she reflects on the overwhelming nature of those requests. As a lady with a high status but a low-born origin, Syria realizes that many nobles see her as an ideal trophy wife. She acknowledges that her past self might have succumbed to such expectations, but she decides not to dwell on those thoughts any longer. Syria takes a bold step and asks Yearnin if he would be willing to escort her to the ball. While she anticipates a rejection, Yearnin surprises her by agreeing. Syria is initially taken aback but is about to express her gratitude. However, Yearnin clarifies that he merely said sure and elaborates that it's not uncommon for a father or brother to accompany a debutante to the ball. He instructs Syria to spare no expense on her gown and dismisses her. Syria, shocked by the unexpected answer from her brother, Yearnin queries if there's anything else, to which Syria initially denies. However, she remembers an action taken without Yearnin's consent, firing a maid earlier that morning. Surprisingly, Yearnin approves of her decision, considering it a good one. Syria, reassured by his response, expresses her intention to leave. Yearnin reflects on Syria, recalling how she used to lack energy and keep her head low. He notices a positive change in her and is pleased with the improvement. Syria gathers all the maids and announces that she will debut at the debutante ball. She shares her plan to have a dress made by a boutique in Zed for the occasion. Syria contemplates the upcoming debutante ball, realizing that Cardi will also attend. Determined to prepare for the event, she gears up for the plans that lie ahead. Syria surprises the maids by seeking their recommendations for the best boutiques in Zed. She smiles confidently, acknowledging their potential insights into local shops. Syria expresses her sincere desire to be a supportive presence for Cardi in this lifetime. She emphasizes her determination to stand by him and vows not to be just a half-lady. Syria recognizes the significance of a special dress for this important occasion in her life. The debutante ball is a significant occasion for young nobles, serving as a platform for them to make their first impressions as they take their initial steps into adulthood. It was during this event that Syria first laid eyes on Cardi, and she couldn't help but wonder how someone with such beauty had no partner. Witnessing him for the first time, she was captivated by his allure. Despite the rumors about him being a nightmare on the battlefield, Syria, now more courageous than in the past, is determined to be the first to approach Cardi at the upcoming ball. Syria, in her quest for the perfect debutante dress, dismissed one after another, expressing her dissatisfaction. The maids, observing the proceedings, noted the rejection of a dress from the popular Laura's clothing store. Despite their opinions being dismissed, the maids couldn't ignore the significance of the situation. They discussed the fact that His Grace had promised to be Syria's partner for the upcoming debutante ball, emphasizing the lady's request for meticulous attention to her debutante dress. Syria meticulously inspected each dress, her discerning eye not easily satisfied. She swiftly rejected several options based on design intricacies, material choices, and even considerations about how well they match her hair color. As the maid hesitated to present another dress, Syria's expectations remained high, her quest for the perfect gown undeterred. Fatigued and somewhat frustrated, Syria contemplated the lack of success in finding the right dress. Expressing disbelief that none of the maids could discover a suitable gown in the past few days, she pondered her own standards, emphasizing her inclination towards a system of rewards and punishments. The alarmed maids, anticipating the worst, were left wondering about the impending consequences of their inability to meet her expectations. Gathering the maids, Syria surprised them by offering each of them 3 gold coins as a reward. The flustered maids, expecting repercussions for their inability to find a suitable dress, were left in confusion. When one maid questioned the reason behind the reward, Syria expressed her appreciation for their efforts, emphasizing the importance of suitable compensation despite the dress not being found. The maids, surprised and grateful, thanked Syria for her unexpected generosity. Having spent 10 years as the Grand Duchess of Odalita, Syria possesses an extensive knowledge of the clothing stores in Zed. Well acquainted with the places where ladies frequently shop, she finds it bothersome despite her familiarity. The years in her previous life have equipped her with an understanding of these establishments, that she seems to be somewhat irritated by the situation at hand. The maids, fearing repercussions, express relief when Syria clarifies that their jobs are secure. Syria reflects on the principles of obedience and loyalty, suggesting that disobedience leads to punishment, while loyalty brings rewards. She emphasizes her upcoming marriage to His Grace, indicating her disinterest in dealing with problems as she moves on. The maids, feeling embarrassed. The maid nervously informs Syria about Stella's boutique, mentioning a particular sample on a mannequin. Despite not being widely known, the owner possesses exceptional embroidery skills, especially in creating daffodil patterns. Overwhelmed by the sight of the daffodil embroidery at Stella's boutique, Syria is moved, reminiscent of Cardi. Expressing her gratitude, she decides to visit the boutique and appoints the maid, now known as Sophie, as her attending maid. Sophie bows in honor and Syria warmly welcomes her, asking her to take care of her. In the midst of a sudden flashback of memories with Cardi, Syria is pleasantly surprised to find that Stella's boutique is the answer she has been waiting for. With its delicate laces and embroidery, the boutique promises to set the trend in the coming months. Syria expresses her anticipation, feeling almost ready for the upcoming events. She eagerly implores Cardi to wait just a little longer. Erden inquires with a servant about Syria's recent advice regarding not becoming overly engaged in greetings after leaving the Duke's castle. The servant confirms that Lady Syria did indeed express such sentiments. Reflecting on Syria's words, Yernan marvels at the apparent growth of that kid, hinting at Syria's noticeable transformation. A few days later, Syria and Yernan arrive at Zed Littenheim's townhouse in preparation for the upcoming debutante ball. Syria, anticipating the event, reflects on the fact that the ball is held every March at the Imperial Palace in Zed. Adjusting to Yernan's schedule, she arrives just in time, eagerly looking forward to the chance to meet Cardi again. The prospect of encountering the 23-year-old Cardi stirs excitement and nervousness within her, causing her heart to race. Despite the exhilaration, she reminds herself to calm down as the anticipation builds. Upon seeing Yernan's expression, Syria hesitantly addresses him, inquiring if he has anything to say. Yernan responds tersely, stating that he doesn't have anything to convey. Syria, taken aback, suggests discussing it later if there's something on his mind. Confused by his abruptness, Syria contemplates the situation. Yernan concludes the brief exchange with a simple "all right." The butler then welcomes both Yernan and Syria, urging them to enter the townhouse promptly. Syria reflects on Yernan's demeanor, sensing an underlying tension or dissatisfaction. She wonders if she might be mistaken, but subtle feeling suggests that Yernan doesn't appear particularly content. The butler graciously invites Yernan and Syria inside, assuring them that their stay will lack nothing. Syria, expressing her intentions, mentions the possibility of staying beyond the debutante ball, urging the butler to treat her well. Yernan, puzzled, questions Syria's desire to extend her stay. Syria, the hint of mischief, explains her plan to remain in Zed during the social season to meet new people, subtly noting her eligibility for marriage. Yernan expresses a sense of sadness upon hearing Syria's plans to leave the Littenheim estate. In response, Syria confirms her intention to depart, emphasizing that staying indefinitely is not feasible. She suggests moving the conversation indoors, noting the chilly weather. Yernan agrees, and the two decide to continue their discussion inside. As they walk together, Yernan apologizes, expressing regret for not treating Syria better earlier, realizing her departure from Littenheim is imminent. Syria reflects on Yernan's peculiar behavior during the trip, speculating that his unease might have stemmed from the anticipation of her sudden departure. Syria smiles at Yernan, playfully suggesting that he can start treating her better. Yernan responds with a hesitant "all right." Observing the interaction, the two maids exchange glances and discuss the noticeable change in the lady's aura, hinting at a shift in dynamics between Yernan and Syria. Rumors circulate about Yernan's previous lack of interest in Syria. Syria, adorned for the long-awaited debutante ball, expresses her readiness. Yernan compliments her appearance, acknowledging her beauty. Syria, in response, thanks him with a smile, reflecting on the unfamiliar side of Yernan. She wonders if she had treated him unfairly in the past, realizing that Yernan, despite his strict demeanor, had shown kindness to her as an illegitimate child. Recognizing Yernan's genuine smile and his desire to be like an older brother, Syria contemplates the possibility of changing her fate by altering small aspects of her life. The anticipation of finally meeting Cardi at the debutante ball brings a sense of happiness to Syria. As the grand doors of the debutante ball open, the announcement heralds the arrival of the Master of Littenheim and the leader of the South, His Grace the Duke of Littenheim, along with Lady Littenheim. The assembled guests are captivated by the revelation that Duke Littenheim is accompanying her. Rumors and speculations ripple through the crowd, expressing surprise at the Duke's presence in Zed and disbelief about his supposed indifference towards Lady Littenheim. The attention then shifts to Lady Littenheim's choice of attire, a unique and rarely seen color among debutantes. Observers interpret this as a significant gesture of the Duke's affection and cherish for the lady. Lost in the crowded elegance of the debutante ball, Syria wonders about Cardi's whereabouts. Just then, a lady approaches her tentatively. It's Baroness Tess, and she hesitates, introducing herself to Lady Littenheim. Syria warmly acknowledges her, highlighting the importance of remembering all the southern noble houses. As they converse, other ladies join in, introducing themselves as Illen from Erheim Viscounty and expressing their honor to meet Lady Littenheim. Observing the change in the social dynamics and feeling the warmth of these greetings, Syria can't help but anticipate the moment she'll encounter Cardi in the midst of the event. Blushing, Syria musters the courage to interrupt and says, "Excuse me." Tess responds, and a thought strikes Syria. Tess wonders if the two great lords of Adalita and Nornbert have arrived yet. Syria, pleased with the question, thanks Baroness Tess, appreciating her concern. Tess then reveals that Marquis Nornbert is already present and attending the event without a partner. The news creates a buzz among the young ladies without partners. One excited lady blushes as she praises Marquis Nornbert's competence, noting that although he lacks the legitimacy of Grand Duke Odalita, he is still a capable man. Syria, eager for information about Odalita, can't contain her excitement, and emphatically urges everyone to stop discussing Nornbert and instead share details about Odalita. Ladies engage in a lively discussion, sharing various rumors and speculations. They mention that Marquis Nornbert is predicted to be the next successor by Emperor secretly, while Grand Duke Odalita is renowned as the battlefield nightmare, contributing to the chaos. There's curiosity about Empress Veronica, Odalita's mother, who is known to be the royal princess of Reyes. The conversation delves into the significance of Reyes within the Empire, and some believe that Odalita's formidable strength is attributed to his Reyes bloodline. Amid these talks, there's a debate about the possibility of Marquis Nornbert becoming the crown prince instead of Grand Duke Odalita. Hearing the discussions about the esteemed lords, Syria initially gets angry at what she perceives as disrespect. However, she restrains herself, reminding everyone not to speak lightly of the significant titles held by the great lords of the Empire. One lady hesitates and clarifies that they weren't speaking ill, but Syria asserts the importance of showing respect to their superiors. She passionately defends Grand Duke Odalita's position as the eldest son and an army general, emphasizing that he is the only prince. In the midst of her declaration, Marquis Nornbert's gaze falls upon Syria, observing her reactions. Syria reprimands the ladies for treating stories about esteemed individuals as gossip, expressing her frustration. She urgently inquires about Grand Duke Odalita's arrival, hoping to catch a glimpse of him. The ladies hesitantly inform her that the Grand Duke will arrive late. Syria acknowledges this and ponders when she will finally get to see Cardi. In the midst of her thoughts, Marquis Nornbert notices Syria smiles and remarks that he initially thought she was a lady of no particular significance. Yurn informs Syria that they have to perform the opening dance for the debutante ball, and Syria acknowledges this with an affirmative response. The opening dance, a prestigious honor signifying the commencement of the ball, is usually granted to the person of highest stature. Syria reflects on her past, realizing that she never had the opportunity to partake in this dance before her return. In that time, the one who likely performed the opening dance was Marquis Nornbert. As Yurnen and Syria gracefully dance, Yurnen expresses his surprise at Syria's skillful dancing. Syria, seemingly modest, responds to his compliment. Yurnen, reflecting on their dance, realizes that he hasn't shared such a moment with Syria before. Syria playfully attributes it to Yurnen being a busy man. In his thoughts, Yurnen wonders when Syria will transition from addressing him as Your Grace to the more intimate older brother. Syria notices Yurnen's discomfort and questions him about it. Yurnen, however, dismisses it, claiming that it's nothing. Observing Syria and Yurnen, the lady remarks that they appear to be getting along well. Nornbert agrees, mentioning the rumored distance between Duke Littenheim and his half-sister, but it seems to be untrue based on their current interaction. Essen Nornbert reflects on House Littenheim's influence, acknowledging its rule over the prosperous southern region and its historical significance among the three great lords. He considers the potential benefits of a strong relationship with Lady Littenheim and notes her beauty, garnering attention from others. When addressed by a lady, Essen Nornbert casually dismisses the matter with a smile. Yurnen expresses apologies to Syria for not escorting her continuously, but she assures him that she intended to rest for a while. Syria decides to take a break outside, realizing it's an opportune time to search for Cardi. Determined, she scans the surroundings for Cardi, anticipating that he might prefer staying away from formal occasions like the ball. As Syria takes a break outside, she encounters a drunken man identified as young Lord Schumacher. He addresses her with familiarity, making inappropriate remarks about her beauty. Syria, feeling uneasy, recognizes him as the individual who behaved inappropriately at the debutante ball before her return. Despite her suggestion that he returns inside due to his intoxicated state, young Lord Schumacher insists on staying. Despite Syria's discomfort, young Lord Schumacher forcefully grabs her hand, proclaiming her beauty under the moonlight and attempting to kiss her hand. Feeling uneasy and alarmed by his actions, Syria pushes him away, shouting for him to stop. Young Lord Schumacher expresses anger at Syria's rejection and accuses her of being cold despite his efforts to win her favor. He mocks her status as a half-noble born of a servant and questions her decision to decline his offer to be her partner at the debutante ball. Syria defends her choice by stating that Duke Littenheim, her brother, went as her partner. Cardi observes the unfolding situation, witnessing the tension between Syria and young Lord Schumacher. Young Lord Schumacher confronts Syria, angrily accusing her of insulting him by not accepting his offer to be her partner at the debutante ball. He demands that she makes up for the perceived insult and insists she kisses him to earn his forgiveness. Syria, feeling alarmed and annoyed, questions what she has to make up for and notices the strong scent of alcohol on him. Schumacher, persisting in his inappropriate behavior, requests a kiss as a condition for forgiveness. Syria, overwhelmed and contemplating her options as young Lord Schumacher persists, feels desperate as she wonders if she should scream. However, her distress is interrupted when Cardi arrives on the scene. Upon seeing Cardi, Syria is momentarily captivated, and Cardi confronts Schumacher, reminding him that Syria had clearly expressed her disinterest in his advances. As Syria blushes and smiles at the sight of Cardi, she reflects on how much she missed him even in her dreams. Meanwhile, Schumacher confronts Cardi, questioning his interference in their situation and demanding to know more about him. As Schumacher asserts his noble status and demands Cardi to stay out of their business, Syria observes that Cardi has kept a low profile and Schumacher likely doesn't recognize him in the current situation. Cardi, calmly addressing Schumacher, points out the irony in Schumacher's emphasis on his noble status. Despite Schumacher's attempts to assert his prestige, Cardi advises him to avoid judging people solely based on their social standing, highlighting the vulgarity in such behavior. Schumacher, taken aback, struggles to comprehend Cardi's unexpected response. Cardi sternly confronts Schumacher, detailing the severe nature of the accusations against him. He highlights the gravity of ridiculing Lady Littenheim, a member of one of the South's leading families, and disrespecting the Grand Duke of Odalita, the eldest son of the imperial family. Schumacher, visibly alarmed, pieces together the identity of Cardi Esperand, recognizing him as the feared nightmare of the battlefield, raised by the imperial family of Esperand. Schumacher, realizing the dire situation, pleads for Syria's assistance, but she remains unmoved. In a desperate attempt to escape, he reaches for Syria, emphasizing his noble status. However, Cardi intervenes, grabbing his hand and inflicting pain. Schumacher's cry echoes. Cardi, displaying disdain for Schumacher's actions, deems the punishment inadequate for the crimes committed against Lady Syria and himself. Schumacher, in agony from Cardi's grip, tries to protest, but Cardi mockingly compares his screams to the noise of slaughtered pigs. Syria reflects upon Cardi's demeanor, noticing the familiar cold and icy tone in his voice. Recalling their initial encounter, she acknowledges that despite his stern exterior, Cardi has always been considerate of her position. Syria appreciates his warmth and the ability to balance his sharpness towards others and himself, recognizing that Cardi's character remains consistent. Cardi expresses concern for Syria's well-being, still in shock from the recent events. Syria, with a smile, gazes at Cardi without saying a word. Cardi, observing Syria's silent response. Syria, suddenly placing her hand in Cardi's, expresses gratitude. Cardi reacts with surprise. Syria, lost in her thoughts, realizes her affection for Cardi and the desire to stay close to him. Cardi looks at Syria, puzzled by her sudden action. Cardi, handing a garment to Syria, politely requests her to put it on. Syria expresses concern about Cardi being cold, but he reassures her, insisting that she can return the garment later. He offers to escort her back to the banquet hall once she's ready. As Cardi escorts Syria back to the banquet hall, Syria, lost in her thoughts, feels her heart racing with the overwhelming emotions of missing Cardi. Onlookers are surprised and recognize the person assisting Lady Littenheim as none other than Grand Duke Odalita, noting the closeness and the fact that he lent her his cape. Blushing, Syria expresses her gratitude to Cardi for lending her his cape, to which Cardi downplays the gesture. Syria, caught in thoughts about Cardi, realizes she needs to secure a promise to meet him again. Despite Syria's intention to have the cape cleaned and returned personally, Cardi insists it's unnecessary. This leaves Syria somewhat disheartened, realizing Cardi's uncomplicated nature. Before leaving, Cardi urges Syria to enjoy the banquet. However, Syria, feeling a sudden urgency, tries to stop Cardi. Unheard by Cardi, she resorts to shouting his name. Everyone present is taken aback by Lady Littenheim addressing Grand Duke Odalita by his name, creating a sense of shock among the crowd. Embarrassed, Syria quickly corrects herself, addressing Cardi as Your Highness and admitting her mistake. Cardi reassures her, asking what's the matter. Blushing, Syria gathers the courage to invite him to a dance, emphasizing the significance of the debutante ball's tradition. She expresses concern that he hasn't danced to a single song yet and nervously asks if he would join her. Realizing the importance of adhering to the rules of the debutante ball, Syria is determined not to let Cardi be treated as someone flawed for not having danced. She recognizes the significance of this tradition and is eager to ensure that Cardi participates in at least one dance to avoid any potential social repercussions. In the midst of the debutante ball, Cardi expresses his concerns to Syria about being perceived as a monster due to his mysterious powers. However, Syria reassures him, emphasizing the kind and sweet person he has shown himself to be. With a smile, Cardi then extends an invitation for a dance and Syria gladly accepts. The two of them gracefully take to the dance floor. Syria finds herself in a whirlwind of emotions as she dances with Cardi at the debutante ball. Memories of their past life, the significant events they attended, and the reactions of influential families flood her mind. Despite Cardi's peaceful expression, Syria grapples with a rapid beating of her heart. She reminisces about their first dance, which occurred 3 years after their marriage in her past life under the Emperor's orders. The mention of Marquis Nornbert's family adds a layer of complexity to the situation, as the Emperor's and Nornbert's reactions weren't entirely positive. In the midst of these reflections, Syria strives to maintain composure, aware that she must not reveal any disgraceful emotions. Syria playfully deflects Cardi's inquiry, smiling and responding with a lighthearted comment about their past life together. However, her internal thoughts reveal a deeper contemplation about their shared history. When Cardi remarks on her thoughts, she spontaneously compliments his appearance, suggesting that his future wife would be incredibly fortunate. As Cardi remains silent, Syria wonders if her comment may have been a misstep, unsure of how he interpreted her words. Syria, observing Cardi's embarrassed reaction, playfully concludes that he must be feeling shy. Cardi, blushing, responds to her thoughts by acknowledging her observation and sincerely complimenting her beauty. Syria, taken aback, blushes in response, and Cardi, realizing he surprised her, apologizes and playfully notes her reaction. Syria appreciates this side of Cardi and expresses happiness at getting to know him better. Cardi, captivated by Syria, finds himself questioning the uncanny sense of familiarity he feels with her despite meeting her only today. He dismisses these thoughts as unnecessary and decides there's no reason to overanalyze or strain their relationship with such sentiments. Syria expresses her gratitude to Cardi for their dance, admitting it wasn't a song she was confident in, but she enjoyed the experience, thanks to him. Cardi apologizes, but Syria reassures him, emphasizing that she had a wonderful time dancing with him, appreciating the grace he displayed. Cardi, intrigued, hesitates before politely inquiring if it would be acceptable for him to address her by her name. Syria extends a genuine invitation to Cardi, expressing her desire to treat him to a cup of tea someday. Cardi is taken aback, considering the potential risks given the attention on her. However, Syria insists, asking if it would be difficult for him to accept. Overwhelmed by the warmth of the gesture, Cardi reflects on the challenge of rejecting such genuine goodwill and agrees to the invitation. Syria, delighted, expresses her happiness at Cardi's acceptance. Urien approaches Syria, questioning her acquaintance with Cardi, and then Cardi quietly departs. Syria, in response to Urien, begins explaining the situation involving Sir Schumacher. Urien, intrigued, inquires further about Schumacher. Syria, deep in thought, considers the unfavorable rumors surrounding Cardi and decides not to make a big deal out of the situation with Schumacher at the ball. Schumacher, addressing Urien, urgently pleads with Duke Littenheim, recounting an alleged unjust situation he experienced. He claims to have suffered a great injury because of Lady Littenheim and explains that he merely intended to introduce himself to her. Urien questions Schumacher, expressing skepticism about the injuries he claims to have suffered due to Lady Littenheim. He points out that with his sister's strength, it seems unlikely that she would be capable of causing harm. Schumacher, with a deceitful tone, fabricates a story to Urien, claiming that he only intended to engage in conversation with Lady Littenheim. He insists that the encounter turned humiliating, emphasizing the involvement of Grand Duke Odalita in defending her, all while drawing attention to the condition of his injured wrist. Urien, expressing skepticism, questions Schumacher's claim about Syria humiliating him and suggests that if his sister did such a thing, there must be a valid reason. He further questions Schumacher about the possibility of being intoxicated during the encounter with Lady Littenheim.